TOXICS by Isabel Burt. Chapter 1. The Old World. The mist lay across the tops of the hills. Its curves clung to the land, vast shadows and shapes in the half-light. As Felicity watched, it slid silently into the hollow of the dell in which she crouched. It spoke to her, and its voice was distant, a bare breath of sound. "Felicity," it whispered. Felicity shivered as beads of moisture crept up her bare arms. They spread to her neck and onto her cheeks. She was enveloped by the cool vapour. And in its shroud, the mist voice spoke again. "Follow me," it said, and she found herself standing and following the moving, swirling fog along the bottom of the valley. Her feet slipped on the unseen path, and she tripped on a rock concealed in the haze, falling forwards. The mist stopped. It rose up, a towering edifice threatening to tumble over her as she regathered her thoughts. Terrified, she closed her eyes, hoping it would disappear. "Where am I? How did I get here?" she thought with confusion. Memories flashed across her mind, and she focused on them to avoid the terror of this creeping, speaking fog. She'd been at her mother's school reunion. There were some old wooden doors, darkness, sitting down. What had she sat on? She knew the answer to this held an importance, but she struggled to think. Perhaps she was dreaming, she thought now. Perhaps if she bit the inside of her cheeks, she would wake up. She bit hard. Ow, that hurt. She opened her eyes. The gloomy ground was still there. She lifted her head. The creepy mist was still there. She looked behind her. "Oh my God," she muttered, for behind her was an army of moving shadows. They spread out in the dusky light. Her heart was pumping fast now. She took some very deep breaths, and without turning, pushed her voice into the gloom. "I am Felicity Isabel Penfold," she said firmly, trying to stand as she spoke out into the rapidly darkening light. "Welcome, Felicity Isabel Penfold," said a voice close behind her. She jumped and slowly turned. Her mind gabbled, "I will not be scared. This is just a horrible dream, and soon I shall awaken and find my way back to the dusty staircase and the old women outside." "No, Felicity Isabel Penfold, you won't," said the voice, as she finally faced it. The fog cleared as if by command to allow Felicity and the voice to see each other. Felicity was looking at a youngish man, but there was something quite different about him. She peered at him. Eyes, almond-shaped and hazel brown. Her inspection continued down his face. Large nose, wide, smiling mouth. Smiling, she realized, and quickly returned to his eyes. They were crinkled up at the outer corners. "How do you know my name?" she asked. "And furthermore, why are you laughing at me?" "You just told me your name," he replied, "and I don't know if it's normal in your world to stare so rudely at someone, but in my world we're more respectful. I was smiling at your bad manners. I think they're funny," he explained politely, but still half smiling. "Well," said Felicity quite loudly. She could feel the blood rushing up to fill her face and neck with colour. She was glad of the fading light. And then his words clarified in her mind. "Our world," he'd said. Where am I? She asked. The voice of Alice, her best friend, most days, came into her head. Geez, Felicity, what are you up to now? How she wished Al were here. She realised her voice had sounded odd. She had an awful feeling that on top of being found on her hands and knees, she quite possibly was about to cry in front of this strange, handsome creature. And as swiftly as that passed through her mind, she realised he'd heard her thoughts, that he could actually read her mind. You're confused and tired, he spoke gently. I apologise for not introducing myself, but you are an amazing creature, and I was simply fascinated by your rudeness, he explained. And in so doing, he bowed low to Felicity. Reuben, 4000th, at your service. Felicity did not understand anything, but she felt she could trust this strangely old-fashioned young man, if that is what he is. I'm not exactly as you think. His voice broke into her mind, but we are more similar than you know. I don't care what you are, Felicity replied aloud, but please just tell me how to get home. I think there's been some mistake. Felicity Isabel Penfold, we have been waiting for you for a very long time. You cannot return home until you fulfill your destiny, our destiny, the entwined destiny of both our worlds. His eyes looked deep into hers. Follow me, she heard him say in her thoughts. Don't be scared. Follow me, and all will be as it should. Reuben held out his hand. It was large and slightly square. It was a strong hand. Felicity took it and looked up at his face, but he was looking behind him now, staring intently at something in the mist. Let's move, he said to Felicity, and just as the swirling mist had opened for her to meet Reuben, so did it clear a path for Reuben to push forwards. Reuben squeezed Felicity's hand for reassurance and began to walk. Felicity looked behind her, somehow hoping to see Al scurrying up behind. She dragged her friend to the reunion, but now Al and Mum were far, far behind. Or wherever, she thought. Mum said she had courage. Al called her crazy. This Reuben boy seemed to think she was someone important. Well, she thought, nothing to do but follow right now. Somehow she'd sort this mess out. She always did.